Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well and you can see me decently well. I'm very happy to be together with you in spite of these technical difficulties. I'm sorry that I am not at the topest level of of the IT technology, but let's say that it's good that we could overcome it. I would congratulate you, if I may, for the idea of including in this conference a panel or a session dedicated to Romania. I think that Romania is indeed an actor, at least a potentially important actor in our region, which is Eastern, Southeastern Europe, and also in Europe as a whole. Through its relations with the global players, Romania could certainly also play a role within their strategies dedicated to our region. Now, therefore, I think that it is important to look into the concept of Romania as geopolitical actor. And this could be done from a Romanian perspective, certainly, but it could be done as well from the perspective of its neighbors and from the perspective of the other players, European players, global players, because certainly they might have a need in cooperating with Romania for solving or overcoming a number of local, regional, and global problems. I make a distinction from the outset between the objective geopolitical concept of Romania and the subjective geopolitical concept of Romania, because the objective one is the result of its geography, is the result of its culture, and it is a result of its history, while the subjective one is a result of the context, which is fluid, is the result of the balance of powers in the region and in the world, and it is a result of the political variability at the leadership of the country. And certainly the politicians, the governments might indeed use fully the geopolitical objective assets of Romania, or they might simply ignore that in order to please the global players, the major players, which exercise, on the other hand, quite an important pressure on the political leadership of the country. And again, this depends on the quality of this political leadership. The pressures could be there all the time, but the reaction of the political leaders might be different in accordance with their character, in accordance with their capabilities, and so on and so forth. Now, this being said, and I must say that I'm so happy that you dedicate some time to Romania within your proceedings, while in Romania, in our academic institution, diplomatic institution, we do not pay much attention to updated Romanian geopolitical concept. Now, Romania has been born in order to respond, or in order to let the major players in Europe to promote some of their vital interests. So from the geo-economic point of view, in the 19th century, in the mid-19th century, Romania was one of the most important suppliers of energy, which means oil at that time, crude oil, and food, which means cereals, for the Western European powers. So it was a need of these powers for a Romania which was able to provide them with these crucial merchandises, crucial goods, energy and food. And therefore, it was a necessity to free the trade and the circulation on the river Danube. The river Danube being at that time the most important route of transportations of these goods from a country, from places where Romanians were living. It was at that time the Romanian principalities or the Danubian principalities and the rest of Europe. This was one of the very important goals and interests of the Western European powers. The second one was geopolitical, not geoeconomic, and this was the interest to, put obstacle against the expansion of the Russian Empire. So Romania was conceived in the very beginning, and it was born as a state to oppose the Russian expansion in Europe. In 1856, before the Romanian state was officially and formally born, the Congress of Paris transferred the territories, the lands which were bordering the mouth of the Danube to Moldavian principalities, which in a few years became a part of the Romanian principality. So in order to make sure that the Russians are not touching any longer the mouth of the Danube, so they could not raise some kind of request concerning the trade and circulation on Danube. Later, when Romania was, so it is important to understand, bearing in mind these two things, that Romania was born in response, or was held to be born in response of the basic interest, vital interest of the Western European powers, and its role was to be there at the mouth of the Danube and on the Danube, strong enough power in order to defend those Western interests. Therefore, one of the names given to Romania, or the qualification given to Romania, was that of a Danubian state. So initially, Romania was regarded as a Danubian state. From a geographic, so this is geoeconomy, geopolitics in the beginning. From the geographical point of view, one has to say that Romania technically does not belong to the Balkans. The Balkans is an area which stands south, which is South Danubian. On the other hand, Romania was culturally very much involved in everything which was related to the Balkan policy, economy, and reality. And it was already mentioned the fact that some of our scholars, and not only our scholars, even somebody or even ordinary Romanians, have the feeling that the Romanian principalities, which became later by unification Romania, are the heirs of Byzantium, Byzantium after Byzantium. So why that? Why is that? Not only because we kept the Orthodox religion denomination, Christian Orthodox denomination, but also because we kept our autonomy. By we, I understand the Romanian principalities, Wallachia and Moldavia, before they unified to form the Romanian state. So the modern Romanian state. So along that way, Romania was considered to be a Balkan state, even if, strictly speaking, geographically, it was not a Balkan state. At the same time, many thought, even in our mythology, let's say Romanian mythology, that we were the front-line country against the Ottoman expansion, against the Russian expansion, against whatever expansion, Austro-Hungarian expansion. In fact, Romania is not a front-line country, it is a flank country, because all the lines, all the routes of the invasions from the west towards the east, from the north towards the south of Europe, are not crossing Romania, since Romania in the middle of since Romania was a state built on the Carpathians mountains. So the circle, the ring of Carpathians finds itself in the middle of the country. Whoever wants to cross the country has to cross at least twice the Carpathian mountains, which is plus in the south the Danube River. So it's quite difficult. Therefore, Romania was always a flank state, and from that point of view, everybody dealing with Romania in the old times and in the recent times did not have the interest to occupy Romania, to administrate Romania, but to keep it under control, or to use it in order to attack the flank of the enemy. So to keep under control in order to defend its flanks, or to keep it under control in order to use it to attack on the flanks of their enemy. I would go further And I would say that at the beginning of the First World War, we had a dilemma. With whom should we go in that war? With the Entente or with so Russian, French, British alliance, or with Central Powers, the German, Austrian. So there are a lot of discussions and stories about that. But basically, the most rational, not the emotional decision, was based on the question regarding the geopolitical identity of the country. Are we a Southeastern European country, a Danubian country, and therefore we need to hold the mouth of the Danube and so on, or are we a Central European country? And if they were a Central European country, we had to control not the Danube so much, but the Carpathians, and the control of Carpathians meant the integration of Transylvania, which was certainly also inhabited by a Romanian majority. So the decision which has been taken, it was a political decision. It was not a romantic decision, and that decision had to be to meet also the interest of the European powers. And especially the interest of the victorious European powers, not the losers, but the winners in the war. So we didn't know beforehand who is going to be the winner, but we have chosen our identity, our geopolitical identity, as a Central European country, a Carpathian country. We became more Carpathian than Danubian, more Central European than Pontic, than Black Sea country. So the result was that we started to have more difficult relations, not only with Russians but also with Hungarians. And the ambassador mentioned it without giving this explanation, since we, on the one hand, we are an Southeastern European player, on the other hand, a Central European player. So for more than 1 century, the foreign policy and the geopolitical concept of Romania were dominated by the two fears, the fear of Russians and the fear of Hungarians. And this was very bad. And we have to get rid of these fears. And my plea is that we have to get rid of these fears, because fear is not a good advisor. And whenever we made this geopolitical decision guided by the two fears I have mentioned, these decisions were not the best decision, and they provided us to have the profit, to have the gain of all opportunities, all the regional opportunities. I will come quickly back to my at least foreign policy doctrine, and I will show you that my plea is indeed for a very important strategic partnership with Hungary and very strong cooperative relations with Russia, because we have to get rid of these fears. Well, so this was a dilemma. As I said, after our choice, we became a Central European country from the geopolitical point of view. What I should also add is that before the First World War, we had, as you very well know, the two Balkan Wars. Romania showed its potential on that occasion, to play a decisive role as far as the geopolitical structures of Southeastern Europe or the Balkans is concerned. Those wars ended by the Bucharest peace, so the peace conference in Bucharest, where Romania was trying to play the role of, let's say, a honest broker, or whatever you call it. Anyhow, it was decisive in structuring the balance of powers in Southeastern Europe, in the Balkans, that was against or without the consent of the great European powers. The Bucharest peace was not at all nice or nicely seen by the Western or by any important European power at that time. I would add that in the end, but from my point of view, at least, the Bucharest peace was one of the most of the finest day of the Romanians' history. Another finest day of the Romanian history was the occupation of Budapest in 1919. This was not. This didn't have any ethnic reasoning, rationale. It was a geopolitical rationale. During those days, in Budapest, the political powers was captured by Bela Kun's Bolshevik regime, which was supported and backed from Russia, from Bolshevik Russia, while the Western powers, Central European and West European powers, were simply unable to do anything. They were faced by their internal turmoils. They were faced by their shortcomings and hardships, which were connected with the war itself, and which ended leaving everybody in a very bad shape. And Romania, without the approval of the European powers, without their consent, decided to go there and to stop the Bolshevism to infect the rest of Europe. So, due to this action, Romania showed that it is able to stabilize the political developments in the various kind of turmoils in the middle of Europe. So, what do I mention that? Because this speaks about the potential of Romania of playing an important geopolitical role, both in the southeastern Europe and in Central Europe. I must add also the fact that between the two world wars, Romania was extremely active in a negotiation of the Montreux Convention. It was one of those who defended the principle of the Black Sea, the sea of its riparians. And this was very important. So from that point of view, Romania became, all in all, a Carpato-Danubian Pontic state. These are the three dimensions of its geostrategic, geopolitical identity. You know very well what happened in the second. I wanted to say that within this context, Romania, the so-called Great Romania, and the Romania after the Second World War, has developed two other fears. So I have already mentioned the fear of Russia, fear of Hungary. The two other fears were fears of isolation and the fear of domination. So Romania didn't want to be isolated, to stay isolated, because when being isolated, it was not able to defend itself properly. On the other hand, Romania was always afraid of the domination coming not only from its enemies, but also the domination coming from its friends, so allies. Once I have noticed in a discussion with my former colleague Evgeny Primakov, who was a foreign minister and prime minister of Russia, that the most bad feelings of Romanians about Russian dates are rooted not in the times when we were enemies, and certainly we had to accept that we were defeated in the war, but they have origin in those times when we are allies and we felt betrayed by Russians who tried to take advantage of the context in order to get some advantages, to get something from Romania against our will. So you could already notice from what I have said until now that to a certain extent, to a very important extent, to a major extent, Romania is a political project, was a political project. So, and it is a product of a political vision. The question is, why was that political project so successful? Because Romania stood as a united country without, in spite of the fact, or despite the fact that attacks and the desires which are still actual, and I stress that they are still actual, to dismantle, to fragmentate Romania. We had one of the very last attempt to dismantle Romania in 1990, in March 1990, when it was an attempt to detach Transylvania from Romania, and there were some kind of upheavals, so-called nationalistic upheavals in Transylvania. So, what could explain the success of such a political project? And the success of the political project could be explained by the strong cultural basis. By the strong cultural basis of this country. And the two pillars of this building, of this political building, were the language, the common language, and the common religion. Romanian language has no dialects. The Romanian shepherds, the old shepherds, they crossed the mountains and stopped to the rivers with their sheep, and they brought with them a common language. While, do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Do you hear? Yes. Okay. And at the same time, Romanians were able to have a single religion, which, interestingly enough, was not the product of a political decision as it was in many other countries, but came from inside the society. So therefore, I believe this political project stood. At the same time, this explained the character of the Romanian nationalism. This is a geostrategic nationalism and not an ethnic nationalism. Romanians never considered themselves superior to the other races or whatever ethno-cultural communities. They were simply looking for securing their places, their countries, their lives. And this also explains something which is crucial for nowadays: their capacity to integrate in transnational buildings like the European Union, for instance. And they do that, and they accept, the transformation asked by these processes, simply because in the end they never abandon their identity. So they are so flexible at surface because in substance they remain extremely conservative. So they are very liberal, if you want, at the surface, but very adaptable. But in the depths, they are very, very conservative. So these are my general explanation about our geopolitical concepts. Certainly, during the Cold War, the invented national communism was the one who, in fact, has driven our foreign policy. And after the Cold War, Romania has to adapt itself to the unipolar global order, which we might call Pax Americana, but it didn't do it gladly, because we remain attached to the idea of a multipolar international order. Multipolarity was always crucial for the benefit of Romania. All our history developed as it developed successfully in the end within a multipolar system. Ambassador mentions the three empires which crossed met around the borders of Romania, and therefore Romania was supported to become stronger in order to keep these powers, these empires separated. So therefore, we believe that even now we have the same aspirations and the same interest. I would, if you give me some 3 minutes more, I would just very quickly.
Yes, please. Let's try, and because we were late in beginning, we are now a little bit pressed with time. But you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I just I'm not going to explain you or to describe the phases of the Romanian foreign policy from 1990 to 2023, because we passed from one phase to another. Unfortunately, they were towards not more an independent foreign policy, not towards the usage of our natural assets, not natural geopolitical assets, but more to align our policy to the policy of the great powers or to the great players, mainly in the end the United States of America. But I'm just wanting very quickly to make few points on the foreign policy doctrine of Romania, which has been developed in 1996, 1997. And this was the doctrine of three concentric circles, which were the three concentric neighbors, regional powers, global powers. The basic elements of these three circles doctrine were the following. Number one, the reconciliation strategy. That was linked to the internal reconciliation. It was an inter-ethnic reconciliation, very important in terms of the relations between Romanians and the other minority communities, mainly the Hungarians. Interconfessional, I don't want to enter in this detail. Historical, between republic and monarchy. I think we did it better than the Greeks has done, this reconciliation. And the international reconciliation, namely with our neighbors. The second point and principle was a strategy of building strategic partnership in bilateral, trilateral, or quadrilateral format with the states in the immediate or close neighborhood. And I have in mind Poland, Ukraine. We don't have time to describe. I was ready to describe all these relations with their peculiarities. Republic of Moldova, Hungary, Austria, Bulgaria, Greece, Turkey, Croatia, Serbia, Slovakia. These were countries with which we have achieved a number of trilateral and bilateral and multilateral partnerships. Why did we do that? In order to get the ability to obtain security outside alliances with regional and global powers. So we saw that even without the alliances with the global powers, we, the neighbors I have mentioned, have to be able to obtain security. Two, to obtain the ability to provide security to regional and global neighbors under condition of advantageous reciprocity. So we should not be dependent on them for our security. On the contrary, we should provide them with some security. Three, the ability to negotiate with regional and global powers from position of superior strength and efficiency. Our integration into the security structure created by them. And lastly, the ability to be useful inserted into the regional strategy. I have in mind the region of Balkans, of Black Sea, Danube, of the global powers. So that is why we consider that it is necessary, it was and still it is necessary to work together with the neighbors. We thought that Romania could be, bearing in mind its geopolitical assets, anchor and a crossing point and a connecting point of all these partnerships, which had to form some kind of a regional network. We also sought Romania to establish a regional strategic partnership with regional players, European players like Germany and Italy. We succeeded with Italy. Germany was hostile to this idea, as it was hostile to all ideas of having local Southeastern Europeans, Eastern Europeans networks of the local player. On the global level, I thought and we think that indeed we need a strategic partnership with the United States, but as much, even not more at this point in time, we need a strategic partnership with China, as well as special relations with emerging powers in Asia, which is a process within what we call the Asian Center. And my last point on this doctrine, we thought that Romania could be, and our region could be, a crossing point of the Silk Road, of the Amber Road, and of the Southern Road. I don't have time to enter into the details, but I wrote articles years ago about these three routes which should cross in our region. So I will stop here. Certainly, I could speak also about the present priorities in Romania's geopolitical vision. As I said, these are priorities of those who are thinking in a certain way. It's not the priority of the government. Our government, for the time being, has only one priority: to please the American ally. Full stop, period. That is all. And therefore, this is a very easy to be achieved policy. In fact, it's equal to have no policy, no foreign policy. But as far as I am concerned, maybe just half a minute, I promise. I think that we need, precisely because of that, the Romanization of the Romanian foreign policy, which doesn't mean an ethnical view, but national interest of this policy. We need the re-examining, resetting our alliances, and I'm not going, and certainly this covers also NATO and the European Union, and certainly to revitalize our relations with the neighbors. Then, of course, we can go further with other. Also, we need to revisit the international political organization, United Nations, Council of Europe, etc., because there we need an updating and reinvention of them. The relations with the funding organization, which became some kind of oligarchy of the world. And certainly there are some other 2 points: the crisis of international law. We have to reject the concept of international order based on rules. We have the international law, which is based on consensus and not based on unilateral established rules. And because of this, concepts, we have a crisis of international law, and certainly, the reset of the international order. And I have already said that from this point of view, Romania is interested in a multipolar world, but not only in several poles, but in poles which are able to keep stability because they are in a symmetric relation of power. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry for keeping you maybe longer, but I hope that I covered at least few points. I provoked you enough. I hope that the technical thing will stop, so that you will not have the possibility to react. Okay. I'm joking, of course. But anyhow, I provide you with a written paper, and if you need it, you can be scandalized further by it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.